Hello and welcome back to Recording Principles, Week 4, Thursday. It's our final class together. Welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at advanced ways to use techniques that we've already learned and tools that we've already learned this month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off, just kind of dive in. There's no need to get into episode or other things today. Nothing else is left to do. So just dive in and look at some stuff. I'm going to introduce you to the world of parallel processing first, and our first step in that will be New York drum compression. Anyone ever heard of New York compression? New York compression is a parallel compression and EQ technique, obviously popularized in New York some time ago. It's hard to imagine now with the instant spread of everything, but engineering stuff used to be kept very, very secret, and so only way to learn something, some of these tricks was to actually witness it being done. There was no YouTube and anything like that, so you would have techniques would spawn in a region, and they would slowly spread out from that region from different engineers working in these studios, and then spread into the industry. These days, somebody comes out with something new, they'll make a YouTube video of it, and it's out instantly. But before, it could take years for something to spread. This originated in New York, and of course, you're going to see it used anywhere now. But still called the New York technique. So the way this works is we're actually going to use aux tracks and sends to create a parallel version of our track. So I'm going to pick an open bus. This is off of my drum group right here, by the way. So I'm on my drum group, and I put on a send going to bus 7 because that's what's open. If it's not open, pick something else. I'm going to turn it up to 0. And I'm going to go down to the aux track. It should be stereo because it left from a stereo track. I want to make sure it's stereo. We are in stereo. You can tell right there it's got the 2 circles. Alright, so what's going to happen now is I'll turn this off at first so you can hear it.
I do every day, every day. Oh yeah.
Need more volume on Logic. I feel like we do.
Thanks and praise and I stay fly, flying away. Oh yeah.
How's that level wise? Sorry if we overdid it for a second. Alright, Howard, well, this is like the happy version of parallel compression. So, what's going to happen when I turn this back on and play it? What are we going to hear? What will the effect be right now as things are set up when I turn this back on? Turn it back on, I hit play now. What's the difference in sound going to be? You all should be able to think through this and answer it by now. I'm waiting. Yeah, so what's the, you're on the right track, Brian. What's the net result going to be to my mix? All right, Jason, we'll let you off on this one to get a moment to see. I'll show you while I'm waiting for other people. What we have is we have bus 7 set up. We have it turned up to 0. And we have it coming in to aux 7 here. And we have no effects or anything else. It's just open. That's not exactly how I would describe it, but yeah, we'll go with that. We're going to go with, it's just going to get louder, pretty much twice as loud, right? We've got the same thing, twice as loud. Someone said fuller, but it's just really going to be louder. It'll be fuller if the time alignment was moving. If we were actually doing this to tape or something and back and forth, the extra saturation and time alignment would add fullness. Right now, it's really just going to be louder. So we're going to listen.
Most high. Yes, I do. Every day.
It's with.
Every day. Oh, yeah. Wanna thanks and praise Him. And I stay.
So it's made it twice as loud, but that's not really balanced to our mix, right? So nothing sounds balanced anymore. We're not really going to leave it twice as loud. Don't worry. All right, so we're going to come over here to our aux track, and we're going to start to work. We are going to add a compressor, and we're going to add an EQ after the compressor. So let's start with the compressor. Stereo compressor is just fine. I'm going to pick one of the FETs because the FET is very fast acting. You can get very harsh with them. I almost always use a black face for this. I'm going to see what the silver face sounds like. And what we're going to try to do is just really destroy the sound this time. You know, before we've been real cautious about, you know, making sure things sound natural or studio-like or whatever. You know, this time we're after destruction. We want grime, grit, everything we can get. So I'll start off with a 4-to-1 ratio. I may raise it above that. I'm going to turn off all the auto stuff. I'm going to go for a fast attack, fast release. No knee.
Most high. Yes, I do. Every day. Every day.
So I've got a lot of gain reduction going on now. I'm going to crank it back up.
And praise Him. And I stay fly, flying away. Most high. Yes, I do. Every day. Every day. Oh, yeah. Wanna thanks and praise Him. And I stay fly, flying away.
So this is just soloing just this. This is what we've done to it. So let's bypass. That's a nice pretty drum set. Now we sound like a high school kid trying to be John Bonham. Right? So that's obviously obnoxious, but it's cool at the same time. So how do we use it? Very subtly. Very subtly. Let's see this. Richard, without any sort of effect, it's just turning itself up. So it's just it starts to double itself. When you get equal, it's doubling its own signal. And if you add an effect, then you start to process it and change the signal, so it's not an exact double anymore. And so that's how I start getting the thickening effect, is through processing the signal. All right, so I'm going to try this with the black too. I'm just going to switch the, I'm going to play it back and switch and see if it sounds harsher or worse. So the, nope, wrong button. This one. Oh, this sounds harsher. I like it. Yeah, I'm going to stick with this one. You can play with your attack and release times to like smooth it out or make it more harsh. This makes it smooth but pumpy. Faster makes it harsher. Maybe you want smooth and pumpy. If you do, you want it to kind of go with the music. You want it to kind of pump in the same way that your head would nod to the beat. This track I usually go for gritty, kind of a grungy sound, but let's try this just because I haven't before. Let's try to get the low groove with the release time. Didn't work on that part. There. Nice. So once again, that's without the effect. This is with it. I reset this over here so you can see we're not clipping. pretty good. We could crank up the ratio a little more and add a little more makeup gain if we wanted. Oops, didn't want to do that. The roof. So the general idea here is to go overboard, whether you're trying to make it sound harsh, gritty, and distorted, or you're trying to make it pump and groove with the music. Either way, you're going overboard. Way overboard is usually the area to be in. Most of the time, the biggest mistakes I see when people use this is they don't use enough and they mix it 50-50. So first part is to go way overboard. Second part is not to mix it 50-50. So once you go overboard with it, you're going to have to let your ears rest because you start to get accustomed to all those extra harmonics, all that distortion. You start to like it, and you let it take over the mix a little bit. So you got to stop, let your ears rest, pull it all the way down. This time we're moving the aux fader. We've never done that in this class, so this is a little bit different. But this time we're going to use the aux fader to control. It's part of our flexibility. So we bring the aux fader all the way down to 0. Let it play back. So remember, this is for mix 4. Let's take the solo off. This should be our final mix already, but we're doing just a little bit more. We want to knock it up just a little notch. So just give it that extra edge. We're doing extra here at the very end. You always want to do this at the end. If you do this early on and you keep mixing to it, you're going to keep raising and messing with the volumes or everything else to compete with it, and you can't make the right judgment of how much of the parallel to mix in. So it's one of those things that should be done very near the last decisions of your mix. All right, so I'm gonna ease it in.
Yes, I do. Every day. Every day.
And you kind of bring it into, you just barely hear it. A lot like you mix reverb. Bring it into, you can hear it a bit, then back off a little bit. But I hear a problem. I'm going to turn it up so you can hear the problem too.
Yes, I do. Every day.
All right. What's our money in this song? Lighting guys call it light the money, being like a spotlight operator, but this is the same scenario. What's our money here? What's probably going to pay the bills? It's the vocal. So our drummer is probably not really paying the bills for us. It's our vocalist. So we can't really have our drummer muddy up our vocalist. It's not going to work for anybody. The A&R guy's not going to like it. Nobody's going to like it. Rich, it's not really a mastering technique, although some people trying to do really heavy compression and mastering will do parallel techniques. But we're still thoroughly in the mix domain. This will be done, on a console even, or on the board like this. That's exactly right, Jason. So we're mixing the parallel compression. We just left them 50-50 to begin with to really just hear the damage we're doing, and really just get just go all out of that compression. Now we have the problem though. What happened is we actually, not only did we bring out natural distortion and room tone that was already in the drum recordings through smashing all that together, through the speed of the compression, the speed of that attack time, we even added extra distortion, extra harshness, extra harmonics, and that's what's giving it that more rock kind of feel. I can slow down my attack time and calm that a little bit and back off on the threshold, but I like it. And that's why I use that model, is because it's so fast that it can add even more distortion. So we've created a lot of distortion, which, as you know, is harmonics. That means extra harmonics have been added everywhere. So now all of a sudden our kick and snare might have harmonics that are interfering with our vocalist. So we handle that in a real easy way. We make a smiley face. So I'm going to add our EQ, just the channel EQ. Same thing we've been using all month. This time it's after the compressor. Oops, I'm on the wrong channel. My bad, I'm going to drag it right over. No problem. Right there, channel EQ. If I can get the device to show up. Alright, I'm going to turn on the analyzer so you can see, but you can pretty clearly hear now what's going on.
Yes, I do. every day, every day. Oh yeah. Wanna thank and praise
Of course, if you're not familiar with things, you kind of want to sweep around to figure stuff out. After a while, you're going to know right where to go by instinct. But I'm going to sweep up, and I'm listening to what interferes with my vocalist the most. And it's right here, right? So right now I've got a frowny face. Sad, sad. So, boom. Now it's a smiley face. Happy. And then if this bass, you know, maybe all that's causing me some problems too, I can just kind of shelf it down, or, you know, take it out if I don't like it in there. I may like it thickening up a little bit, you know, so that's, you know, that's kind of the taste for what you need in the mix. But you have all that control, and it's not affecting our original drums. It's a parallel process. So even though I can take all that out, and I still got it there in the drum track. Right? I didn't take out our original kicks. I took out the parallel compression, but I want that thickness on the kick too. So.
Yes, I do. Every day, every day. Oh yeah. Wanna thank and praise Him.
You know, something like that. You don't even have to go that far. You know, you can just stick with a smiley face. Because you're not bringing in that much of it. This bass stuff's not going to interfere as much as it looks like it might. Because remember, you're not going full blast with it. So we're going to back it all the way back down again. We're going to let our ears rest. Take a breath. Listen to all the static of your computer fan. Play.
Yes, I do. Every day, every day. Oh yeah. Wanna thank and praise Him, and I stay flying away most high. Yes, I do. Every day, every day. Oh yeah.
I like having these back on.
And praise Him, and I stay flying away most high. Yes, I do.
All right, so that's New York compression. New York compression consists of the parallel compression process with the smiley face EQ afterwards to clear out the room for the vocalist and your lead instruments. Imagine how long it took engineers that had never broke outside the box to think about moving a thing across the console to another channel and working on it to figure that out. They'd hear these albums hit, and you know, all of a sudden you have a series of albums hitting, and the drums are the fattest drums that ever happened. And yet you can still hear, you know, the lead instruments and vocalists clearly. That had to blown minds for a really long time. You know, still a great technique today. All right, Heidi, I'll try to balance the sound a little better. Turn down Logic a little bit. All right, so that's New York compression. Now let's take a look at parallel EQ. As you can guess, this will be another parallel process. This time I'm going to do it on the lead vocal. So equalizers, especially analog equalizers and digital equalizers that are designed not to cause much processor drag, like our channel EQ here. The more you boost or cut, it causes different sorts of phasing artifacts and different things that can cause different forms of distortion and phasing issues, which is the cutting in and out of the waveform. So a lot of times, you know, especially if your vocalist is somebody that doesn't use a lot of processing, they're not using auto-tune, all that stuff, EQing their vocal can become very obvious to the listener or to them. Maybe they get upset with it. Maybe the artist is like, you're changed the way I sound. I don't like it. This is not what I want. You know, because they're going to be extremely sensitive to how they sound. And once again, the vocalist is probably writing your check. So got to keep them happy. So in this case, parallel processing comes back to save us again. So just from the lead vocal, I'm making another Another bus. Oh yeah, that was my delay throw from before. So now I've got bus 8. Once again, I'm going to turn it up to 0. You'll get used to saying up to 0 as an audio person. It probably feels weird at first to think up to 0. You usually think down to 0. So up to 0. And over here, just an EQ. There's our EQ.
Yes, I do.
So right now our vocal's twice as loud.
Every day.
We don't really want it twice as loud. We just want to bring out certain parts. So we can do a couple things. We can do our old sweep technique to figure out what we like and don't like. Narrow this cue.
Yes, I do. Every day. Every day. Oh yeah. Wanna give.
So it gives like
Gotta
more
give.
late night radio tone.
Stay flying away. Yes, I do. Every day.
That helps.
Every day.
That makes it a little
yeah.
brighter. This is going to make it a lot brighter here.
Gotta give. And I stay fly. Stay fly.
A little air up there.
Flying away. Yes, I do.
Alright, so what I did, I like the 500. I like some of the air up there.
Every day.
So, you know, I can go back to our old, good old friend, the subtractive technique. Dip down around that.
Yes, I do.
Take this one.
Every day.
Down here.
Every day. Oh yeah. Wanna give and praise. Gotta give. And I stay fly. Stay fly. Flying away.
And I liked having a little bit of air, maybe.
Yes, I
don't
do.
normally, but I'll say that I do for
Every
this.
day. Every day. Oh yeah.
There you are. So I'll do just a little bit of lift there. Go way back down on when you're adding air, just 1 or 2 dB. Go very subtle. You may not even notice it. Ideally, it's one of those things you just kind of notice if you take it away, but you don't notice it that you did it.
Every day. Oh yeah.
And that's only 1.5 dB. But, if you're listening cautiously, it just lifts the vocal up just a hair in the mix. It goes from like here to here, and my sort of perception of it. Everybody's scale of perception is different. So that's kind of what we have there. You know, it's kind of like boosting here and here, but I cut out all that other stuff that we didn't want to duplicate so much. Now close that, and same thing. Turn it all the way down. Ears rest. Listen.
Yes, I do.
You know.
Every day. Every day. Oh yeah. Wanna thank and praise. Gotta give. And I stay fly. Stay fly. Flying away. Yes, I do. Every day. Every day. Oh yeah. Wanna thank and praise. Gotta give. And I stay fly. Stay fly. Flying away. Yes, I do. Every day. Every day. Oh yeah. Wanna thank and praise. Gotta give. And I stay fly. Stay fly. Flying away. Yes, I do. Every day.
All right, so you just got to blend it in just a little bit, just to give your vocal, your lead vocalist, that little bit of extra edge. It can kind of help separate them from the other background vocals and the rest even more. It makes them seem a little extra superhuman. They have a little extra power in their in that mid-range of their vocal. It's just a touch, you know. Even another engineer is not likely to be able to just listen to that and know I did that to his voice unless they had heard the source recordings before. For all they know, it could have been the curvature of the mic, the way that voice is, or whatever. But, you know, I very subtly made it extra. You know, it's a little extra human, extra good, right? You know, that's what we do in the studio. It's an illusion of being larger than life. And if I'd been overboard with it, it would have felt obnoxious. It would have felt unreal. A lot of listeners might have rejected it. Some people would have thought it was cool. But doing it like that in a very subtle way, the listener's not, likely to reject it at all. They're likely to appreciate that, that extra touch was put somehow into these things. The drums are, a little bit bigger. The vocals, a little bit stronger, a little bit more powerful. It's all these things you want from an album, right? You want your album to sound, larger than life, better than real life. That's why people listen to an album these days. Originally they listened to an album to try to just bring music into the house that they didn't have to play. But these days we want more out of things. All right, any questions on these techniques? I got a couple more to show you. But I'm going to be changing sessions. So if there's any question on these techniques, please ask now before I open a new session. Our next techniques we'll be looking at are sidechain compression and keyed gating in a creative manner. All right, no questions? All right, well, there we go. We got a response. Thanks, Jason. Cool. That's enough for me to know that people heard me. One response. Let's get to it then. New. Close. I don't need to save that. Adios. Of course, Logic makes you make some tracks. That's fine. Let's start with 4 tracks. Maybe 5. Good start. Just to get things going, I'm just going to go to the loop library. I'm going to find a kick and some hi-hats, maybe a snare. In loop form, just for the speed of it. I'll take it. I need to slow things down. You know what? I'll import that. We'll speed up our session. Now that's interesting. It says it's 128 BPM, but when I imported it, we got a 127 BPM session. All right. There's a kick drum. Let's find good hi-hat pattern. We'll just put hat. I'm just looking for a basic closed hat, 16th kind of pattern. So I don't use their loops, so I don't really know what all's in here. I wanted 16th notes, I might settle for 8th notes. That's a little... Wait, how if I just put hat 16 if I'll come up with something? Nope. Worth a try. I can work with that. I'm adding EQ just because it's a loop, you know, to clean it up. And this is just, you know, I could program this in Ultra Beat or MIDI or something. I just thought it would speed things up to use just some logic loops for the basics. Look here and see. So I really want the hats. I don't. Orange band. Oh, there's little hand drums in there, hiding back there. I like that. Yeah, I didn't even notice them at first. All right. Now let's find a synth and a bass, and we're going to use, we're going to process the synth and bass to our drum kit. I'm going to take advantage of this handy search feature and see if I can find something I like. I'm not sure if I can make this hype at all. It sounds like a nature movie on butterflies or something. But I'm willing to start with it. We'll see what we can do with it. And I need a bass. Looking for big, sustained bass sounds. Alright, so let's start with the bass. So we're going to sidechain compress the bass to the kick. It means every time the kick hits 1, 2, 3, 4, the bass will duck. I still don't know if I'm happiest with that bass line. I can't believe they don't have a Hoover labeled as a Hoover. Searing bass. I'm not feeling seared. That's going to do it for us. I like that better. It's organic anyways. Maybe we'll try them both. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a compressor on the bass. So down here on this audio track, it sends on the audio effects, compressor, stereo, for me. Sidechain. See up top? Top right, it says sidechain. Sidechain none. Go to sidechain, festival kick. Any audio track, it will let you send there. And watch this. So you'll notice, regardless of what the actual bass part is playing, this needle is going back and forth on the gain reduction every time the kick hits. 1, 2, 3, 4. So. Use a fast attack, fast release until I dial in my threshold and ratio. It's not going fast enough for me. I'm guessing. Because that bass line's so plucky, I feel like it's harder to hear what's going on. I'm gonna go back to sorting. For something that'll be a little easier for you all to hear, especially on headphones and speakers at home. Maybe some. I already have one big pad, but yeah, how y'all feel about that one? Sounds mean. Bypass the compressor. See, it sits there, but I don't really feel like it fits the mix. Is it on? And you work with the attack and release time, so it sounds like it pumps the music a little bit. You can have it kind of subtle, you can go for really deep pumping tone. The further you go into your threshold, probably the quicker your release is going to have to function. You can probably slow down your attack as well, just a little bit. And this part, you know, some people digitally get science about it. They try to measure out the numbers. You can get close being sciencey. You can get exactly by using your ear. Alright, so bypass. Now we can mix it in a little bit, bring it down. The hi-hats need to come down some there. Alright, so there's our sidechain bass. Let's try key gating our pad here. So on this one, we're going to put on a gate. Dynamics, noise gate. And up here at the sidechain, oftentimes they'll be called key on a gate. You'll see it called key. Logic decided to standardize it, call it sidechain and everything, which kind of makes sense. It's the same thing no matter what. But a lot of gates will say key, and a lot of compressors will say sidechain. You know, for practical purposes, same thing. So this time we're going to go to the hi-hat to trigger our gate. Fast attack, fast hold, fast release. like this pad anymore. Once you got this audio effect set up, we can put anything here, and it's going to process no matter what we put in here. You know, you could have like an A and B part. I don't know what all that is, but I just want to move this over. If you hold Alt and drag, you can duplicate things. Drag back there. All right. What do y'all think of that? Let's see. Oh, you want to see some automation? No problem. We can do that. Jason, that is Kingston. All right, I got a request for some automation, and that's no problem either. Let's see what we want to automate. Let's see if we got a little vocal or something in here. We'll just keep going with what we're doing. I have no idea what I'm looking for, so. That already has a delay on it.
You and me forever walking.
You got all the processing on these vocals.
How long
No
can
fun, you
I
already did all the
wait
stuff.
for you? How long can I wait for you? How long can I wait for you? How long can...
All right. An idea. Just gonna find a small clap here. It's ridiculous to have a 909 in the box behind me. I didn't take it out for this. I thought about it, but didn't want to add too much complexity to the class, so just try to find. I just want to clap. I don't need all that other stuff. These are all ridiculous. Whatever. No clap. Sorry, folks. You'll have to clap yourselves. If you just clap along in time, it'll be almost like it's really there. All right, I'll just leave that for now. Let's do some quick editing, laying out. So, I'm going to make this track move very rapidly. So the thing with automation is you want to have a purpose, right? There can be different purposes. Some people automate what they call rides for vocals drums, which is basically you're pretending you're a compressor. You're just trying to use your finger on a fader really quick, or a mouse. If your mouse is kind of hard to do it on, some trackballs will work. But basically, you're moving up and down the volume like a compressor would, very fast. You just duck the volume wherever they get loud, and some people get good at that, and it's more natural to hear them do it than to hear the compressor machine do it. Doesn't get done a lot these days, I don't think, but it's a great technique. It's very easy to do in digital vocal writing. It's very hard to do with a mouse, so a lot of people will get a mechanical, fader or some sort to work with it. Then there's stuff that we've worked in this class, things like delay throws, and so those can be fun and interesting. This time we don't have to do much with dialing in the timing of a delay because everything we did was in sync. We built this in Logic, so everything's in time with the session. So I can just kind of use the presets if I want to and dial in from there. So let's put on a delay. We'll do a delay throw. So we set up a bus. New bus. It's going to create a new aux track. On that aux track, we're going to put on a delay. Use the tape delay just because I like tape delay. It's a lot of fun. And I'm going to automate this vocal. I'm going to automate a throw on this vocal to kind of fill up some of the space. I haven't even listened to this arrangement. You just saw it, did it in my head. So for time's sake, I'm going to try to automate it on this first run and hope that it just works out for me. Normally you'd want to listen to it a few times. But I have a pretty good idea, I think, of what's going to happen. I actually need to dial this in a little bit. So let's sort of loop points here.
How long can I wait for you? How long can I wait for you? How long can I wait for you? How long can I wait for you?
That's about perfect. It dies down right about the end there. It's doing a triplet pattern in between a dotted note, which is giving us kind of a funky feel because we're going to drop back into that 4/4. If this was overlapping that too much, if my delay throw went too long, it'd be bad. But I might have these more and more, so I don't necessarily want them all to delay like that. So let's see.
How long can I wait?
I hope I trimmed that about right. turn off the loop point. To automate, all you have to do is pick the track you want to automate on, and in this case, our Andre Lyric. Go down to in the mixer view or in this inspector here where it says read. Go to I prefer touch or latch. They all kind of do it. Write starts writing immediately, whatever anything's set to. So if you have any external controllers, anything it sends, it's getting written, or whatever it's set to. Latch, as soon as you move something, it starts writing that parameter once it's been moved, and then it keeps it at the last parameter you left it at. Touch is a lot like latch, only you start writing the parameter, it starts writing, and then when you stop, instead of staying at the last parameter you stopped at, it goes back to where it started. So I usually use latch because I usually leave off where I want it to leave off. And I'm going to automate the send. I'm going to start off with it down. No delay. And I'm just going to hit play. How long? Put one there. You know what? I've already decided I want more of these. There. Don't want to copy the data yet because I want to automate over it all. Don't copy. Oops. There it goes. Yeah, it's a pain because I recorded a little bit of automation before I decided I want to do that. All right, I'm going to go back to the beginning. Hit play.
How long? How long? How long? How long? How long can I wait for you? How long?
All right, so once you write, you have to be sure to put back in read. If not, anything you touch on that track is going to continue to automate. You could undo what you did, you could write over it, you could add other stuff you didn't want to add, all sorts of bad things could happen.
How long? How long? How long? How long? How long can I wait for you? How long? 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 How long can I wait for you? How long? 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 How long can I wait for you? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long?
Just bypass everything we did.
How long can I wait for you?
That's just everything bypassed.
How long? can I wait for you? How long?
All right. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? I don't have a big hurrah explosion magic plugin to show you to make the hits. Just more techniques and more perspective. Just different ways to look at things to get places. I got crickets out there. Keyboard's working. Am I still sending out messages? I feel empty. Alright. I'm just gonna keep rocking out till somebody talks to me.
How long? How long?
I get real tired of it because it's just the same two loops, basically. An A part, B part, some effects, vocal snippet.
How long can I wait for you?
Kind of like it.
How long?
I feel embarrassed when it's so easy to make something, but even though it's all stock stuff, nobody else is going to come out with something that combines those things in that way.
How long? How long?
You know, of course, you can sit here and do the same thing by sampling an 808, a 909, your own drums, have your own vocalist or mic in there. You know, what this takes, somebody just going hello, hello. Just go get go when your friends come over and yell hello into a microphone, and put enough. Oh, it's how long, yeah. And just put enough effects on until it sounds cool. How long? How long? You can have your kids in the back of the car. How long? Alright, thanks Brian, Heidi, Andrew. Tanya, Howard. Howard, the question is just make sure you're all there. A couple of y'all having some audio dropouts. Jason, I wanted to, and I could, but I'd have to open up Ultrabeat or something. I tried to find a loop real quick, but I'd have to open up a sampler and drop them in, and that's getting into your sequencing course. So I'm trying to stick with just loops and audio. I wanted to clap. You saw me look for it. I'm being hounded by one of the students for not having a clap. Richard. No can-do'sville on the mastering techniques. You got to get to the other end of the program. Learn to mix where you can master. The best mastering technique is make your mix sound the way you want the master to sound. And then the mastering engineer just has to do some very subtle corrections, which is what they're supposed to be doing. They're not supposed to be reshaping your music. If you send your music to mastering expecting it to be reshaped in some way to sound like something else, it's just not what they're going to be doing. So mastering is basically two processes. I said I wasn't going to show it, but I'll show you a little bit so you understand what's going on. Mastering goes on the master, and usually once you bounced it, so you have a separate session with the 2-track, not actually in here. But if I want to make a quick master for my client to go check out in his car, by no means, don't get to your mastering class. But, well, Professor Hughes said just do this to master real quick. I'll show you how to make a quick client master. This is in no way a substitute for a mastering engineer. And limiter. I'll add a compressor too.
How long can I wait for you?
Of course, if I was just going to release this on Beatport, I would sit here and master it myself because, the royalties aren't really enough to pay the mastering engineer sometimes. You have to make your decisions. But especially when you're learning, it's always good, especially when you're learning your own room, because the mastering engineer will know their room, their speakers, a good one anyways, and be able to make any adjustments. A lot of times it's just a slight EQ curve adjustment. Like, turn this EQ here.
long can I wait for you?
So say that my mix looked more like this when it went to mastering. And so this guy's like, okay, obviously this guy doesn't have enough low end in his room. He needs to pull back a little bit. I just dial it back down just a little bit there, a little shelf EQ. I can clean up this sort of stuff. I can get into, I do a lot of mid-side processing, taking the sides off of my low end.
How long can I wait?
So EQ, just to clean up a little bit, you can kind of also kind of check around for things that might help it. Like you might find just a little surgical cut right there where it's got kind of that little sound. You don't really want that anyways, right? It sounds like a basketball that's been pumped up too much. So maybe you want to use that spot as a place to make a little cut, adds a little separation. Clean it up. Different philosophies on mastering engineers. Some won't make a cut like that, some will. Maybe you want to change the contour of the whole mix so that it all leans a little more to the mid-range. Maybe you think that's what it needs to sound better on the radio. You might put a little bump kind of in this little range. And then, of course, brighter, dimmer on the master, on the top end. You might EQ just a little bit for glue, a little VCA compressor, and just a couple dB of compression. I have no idea what this one models after. They either changed the look of it or something's different. I like it. It doesn't have a attack and release. Alright, let's go to something with attack and release. A lot of times on the master, I find your attack's going to want to be at least 20 milliseconds or more to not take the punch out of your drums. You don't want to hurt your drums. Your release needs to be something that makes it move musically in some way. All this stuff. So the compression shouldn't have to do a lot, it should just be gluing it together. All the compression that needed to happen, all the distortion that needed to happen, all the things that needed to happen for you to get the loud volume, the density of the mix that you wanted need to be done in the mix. I get a lot of people, especially because we're dealing with digital, not going through those analog processes. A lot of things come out really brittly thin. They didn't get the harmonics that they would normally have gotten going on and off of tape, going in and out of consoles. And people send that, they think that somehow the mastering engineer is going to put that in there. And the mastering engineer can add some distortion, some harmonics, but it's just like I told you before about processing the whole bus. They're processing your whole mix with those. They can really only add just a touch of it. So, you know, if what your mix really needed was a bunch of distortion on the guitar, the mastering engineer can't do that to fill out your mix for you. You should have done that. You know, so a lot of the distortion things, a lot of people think that the mastering engineer should be putting that on there, like, that all these things need to happen to get the thickness of the mix in the mix. Now, I've had to go through for clients before and do that sort of thing to them. And, you know, I find it horrendous what it does to the music to act that way. And sometimes they like it. And, you know, when you're working for somebody, it's not really for you to question their taste if they're, you know, certain what they want. But really, generally, you shouldn't expect the mastering engineer to do a lot of damage with compressor, and you shouldn't want to if you're self-mastering. If you find you need to look elsewhere in your mix. And a lot of us, probably everybody's made that mistake when we started self-mastering in digital. Once things went digital, when we could all start trying to learn how to self-master, I think a lot of us had some pretty ugly stuff out there. So just a touch here. And then with the limiter, what you do is you raise your gain. So just touching the limiter some too. And this is making sure that nothing comes through. It's got true peak on. A little bit of look ahead. You can lower this even a little bit more to make sure you got plenty of room to make your MP3 if you like. Now it's limited. That way everything's going to bounce out with no clipping. I'm hitting the red a little bit there, but you see I'm only hitting, negative 0.1 because it's max reading. So, I could, I could bounce that now, and it would be, I'd probably need a little more work before, it's not obviously going to compete with deadmau5, but it would compete with many artists on Beatport as it is. With a little more time, you could dial it in a little more to higher end precision. And then, of course, if you were deadmau5, you would send it off to your mastering engineer. So that's how you get something decent for a client for you to put out or something if you just want to play something out for your friends or whatever. But obviously nothing, especially when you're A, not very experienced, and B, don't have a really high quality playback system. Nothing's going to replace the mastering engineer. It might might work at 3 a.m. Andrew, I don't know what program you're in. I'm currently not teaching any other classes. By this time next year, I'll likely be teaching in the advanced end at senior level. So you never quite know around here, but I'm looking for those in audio production BS. I'd say there's a better than 50% chance you'll see me again. Richard asked me what's so special about a mastering engineer. It can be a lot of things. Partly it's an obsession, for a lot of them. You're dealing with somebody that's highly obsessed with audio quality. The next step is that obsession generally leads them to having the best quality equipment. There's like Bob Ludwig. He's known, his in-home mastering studio, they actually went down to bedrock, and the speaker columns are actually mounted to bedrock, going up through the floor, and then on top of those, I think each one of those speakers is like $15,000 a piece, sitting on those columns, and he's got a surround sound set like that now. So you're just talking about somebody that's in a listening environment so pristine that, you could move, trying to think of an object, you move like a coffee cup in the room and you'll hear the change. So your high-end mastering studios are like that. Also, some will bring on and off of analog gear. They're also usually processing through high-end gear. If you're doing a cheap digital master, you're going to get something like somebody, using Ozone, and then it's all to their listening environment and their ears. But these higher-end studios, they're putting you through, it may run through only 4 pieces of gear, but that might have been $100,000 signal chain they run your signal through during that master. And, there's something for that. The quality of the gear, the way it colors the sound, and the ear of the engineer. And then when you're dealing with albums, then you have how each song goes into the next in the album, making sure everything in the album flows together and sounds cohesive, because these days a lot of times albums are made by different producers, different engineers, recording different studios. So the mastering engineer has to make sure the album feels cohesive. Things go in and out. They also deal with all the metadata, tagging everything, making all the versions for the different sort of output mediums, and then and all sorts of kind of like clerical sort of stuff that's really no fun to talk about. So there's a lot. There's a lot more to the mastering engineer than just slapping on an EQ and a compressor, but the basics of mastering are equalization and compression. Jason, yes, the parallel drum compression for the New York compression I sent from the drum group, all the drums. Richard, exactly. Yes, try not to leave anything for the mastering engineer. They should be doing some nuance that maybe you didn't even notice. You should try to make the mix sound like you think it should on the radio. Leave them some headroom to work with, and then let them, take up those final things. Use the limiting, and in their ear to get that final little bit. But you should want when it comes out for the mastering engineer, you shouldn't have a major shift in sound. If there is, then you did, there's some errors that he was correcting for you that were pretty big. All right, Andrew, this might be our last class together then, my friend. Good having you. Jason, I haven't CD authored in so long. I don't actually. If I have to, I'll send it to somebody else at this point. My personal stuff's just all singles, so I'll usually self master, send it off and as a single, and then I send my distro the 24-bit, and all the versioning comes from there. Which sometimes is unfortunate, so I don't always like the way that other people encode it, but it makes it convenient. Now, every label, distro, and stuff is going to be different in what they want and whether or not they're going to master it. A lot of labels have their own mastering because it's part of the cohesiveness of the label, just like making an album sound good together, like it all fits cohesively. A lot of times labels want to fit cohesively together, so some labels will require you to use their mastering so that everything's a very cohesive thing with the label. Some even require you to use their mixing. There's so many variables these days, and so many ways to get music out there that some people are way more specific than others. So, thank you all for a great month. Good luck in your future.